Hey, Senda.
Hey, Phil.
It's time for another Chit Chat.
Oh my gosh, it's the fifth one.
Cue music. And welcome to another episode of Panda's Talking Games. I'm your host who's mostly hanging in there, Phil.
And I'm your host with the sick kitty cat, Senda.
Yeah, it's, we're not going to talk too much about that for the show, but emotionally it's been kind of a roller coaster, over the last couple days. But we're here.
We're here. What we can say is, like, there's a lot of life stuff continuing to happen, and as a result of that, this show will continue to be one of our Chit Chat shows instead of one of our regular shows. So if this is the first Pandas show that you have ever listened to and you want a sample of what our podcast usually sounds like, I would recommend jumping back to our last standard episode, which was Getting to Know You, where we actually do things like edit out ahs, and outtakes, where we actually have notes and plan what we're going to talk about. This show is not that show.
No, tonight this is another Chit Chat episode. In order to take it easy on ourselves during this pandemic and lockdown, we have removed all the safeties from the show.
Yes,
we have no script, we have no editing. Just two hosts, gonna wing it. But what we'd like to do in the Chit Chat episode is talk about things that are giving us life. Once again, a hat tip to the Gauntlet community, where I heard that phrase coined for the first time. And we always do what's giving us life in gaming. And then we're going to return to a favorite during this pandemic, which is what is giving us life in the kitchen.
Right. We just seem to keep returning to that, but
Well, we seem to be cooking a lot of good stuff. So
it's like that. What do you do?
It is exactly like that. So yeah. Let's start it off, and why don't you tell me about something that's giving you life in gaming?
Well, so this is interesting partially because the way that my life works, I have a regular every other Thursday game group. So this was the off week, right, for my Thursday. But having said that, I sat down with Andy last night and we recorded the next show for She's a Super Geek. So you will be able to hear the game that I am talking about actually before this show drops, because it's going to drop tomorrow, which will have been last Tuesday when you hear this audio, blah, blah, blah. Chrissy, crossy, timey-wimey, podcasting, time travel nonsense. Anyway, so we played Couldn't Stand... Oh no, I've forgotten the name of the game.
There is no editing.
I know, right? Whatever I say is just gonna go. It's Couldn't Stand Still If You Tried, which, when you read the game description, sounds very pensive. And then when you actually play the game, is like, it turned into some pretty cool, space scavenging cowboy pirate style stuff. And it was very epic. And I really enjoyed it a lot. And the cool thing that I wanted to specifically bring up about it. So this is a remote, I'm reluctant to call it an epistolatory game. It's not really letter writing. It is a simultaneous message writing game meant to be played by 2 to 6 players who are remote from each other, right? So you can play it in Discord, you can play it, email, whatever you want to do, right? And it's great, but the thing that you do while you play it is that it has a specific soundtrack. So you go to this Bandcamp page with the soundtrack, and it's a good soundtrack. It was awesome. I was like, oh, I never knew this existed. That's cool. But you go to this Bandcamp page with a soundtrack that has cool, spacey, metal grindy sounds, and then also awesome guitar riffs, right? And you start this soundtrack, and then the soundtrack is not just background, it is both an interactive element of the game in that you have, you are actually instructed to react in specific ways when you hear specific kinds of sounds. Like when you hear the sound of space debris screeching across your hull, freeze and wait till it passes, right? Like you have to stop writing and wait to make sure your ship makes it through, which is a really cool experience to be like, oh God, I can hear the metal scraping on my ship. Right? Like, ah! So that's neat. And then add on to that, the way that it works is that this album has 8 songs. So you write 8 messages. And each one of them, you have the amount of time that that song lasts to write the message. If you're not done writing when the next song starts, you just send whatever you have. And that's as much of it's whatever you finished writing is as much as got through before like the line was interfered with, right?
Oh.
So that it's just cool, right? Like, so it functions both as like an atmospheric thing that you have to react to, and then also as the functional timer to add urgency to you, like trying to write these messages really fast. Because the songs range from like 1 to 4 minutes long, and 4 minutes is plenty of time to write a couple of paragraphs and like get some like story stuff going. But 1 minute is hard.
Yeah. No doubt.
Right? So, and then you're reading what the other people wrote and interacting with it. So the really interesting thing that I wanted to take from that was like the giving me life moment in gaming is like, we've talked about sound and music as like background or inspiration, like atmospheric stuff for your game. And this soundtrack certainly is that for this game also. But what's really cool about it is the way that it is also mechanically involved in the game, which is not something that I have experienced in a lot of role-playing games in terms of like, here's the soundtrack, now mechanically react to it, right? Mm-hmm. So that was really cool.
Which I think is very cool. I have a very similar experience in a very different game, and it was more of a house rule.
Yeah.
So, but also utilize music. So, back in the 90s, I ran a D20 modern campaign called Heist, which was about a group of thieves in Las Vegas, which was very end of the 90s, early 2000s, end of the 90s. It was very much an end of the 90s game. Ocean's 11-esque kind of game.
Yeah. And
one of the players in the group, Sean Kilgore from our chat room.
Surprise. He's very tall.
Yep. Sean made soundtracks for every player in the game. Like he made a disc that was a full disc of music.
Yeah.
For everybody's character, with one song that was kind of like the quintessential song for your character.
Yes.
And what we would do is we would use those soundtracks as our background music when we played. And now I'm going to date myself here. My stereo had a multi-disc changer.
Nice. Yep.
So we would load all the character discs in.
Yep.
And then put it on shuffle.
Yep.
And the rule was that if you made a roll and one of your songs
was playing
in the background, you got like a +2 bonus to your roll. Right? I mean, like it wasn't anything too serious, but it was just
there. It
was a thing of like, well, if you're up and you're doing your thing and it's your song in the background.
I mean, like I think I've talked about this before. Like, I have had this amazing magical moment at the end of my last Tales from the Loop game where, like, Quincy just leaned down and started playing the songs that we'd chosen for our characters at the very beginning of the game during our last scenes. And it was, like, amazing because they were all perfect. So, like, you know, that kind of stuff has happened to me. But, yeah, this was definitely, it was a unique experience because, and I think it was actually helped in that because it's a writing game, you're sitting there specifically listening to the music while you write. You're not talking, you're not having a conversation over it and like maybe picking up on like some of the sound effects or something. You're sitting there quiet and then suddenly there's screechy metal and you go, oh, is my ship gonna make it through?
Right. I mean, the music is mechanized because there's mechanics around it.
Yeah.
But it is also performing a narrative function.
Yes. Like very much so.
It is, in a way, it is behaving almost like a GM.
A little bit. It's definitely inspirational and not specific. And you roll dice to kind of see what the gist of your message will be, like what happened to you. And there's all sorts of fun things in there.
But it also opens and closes the scene.
It does. It opens and closes the scene.
Yeah. So,
and it gives you an atmosphere, and it tends to influence how you're writing, like the feeling of the song. Right?
Yeah, so it actually has some GM-like qualities, right? Some narrative, I shouldn't say GM, it has some narrative control qualities, right?
Yes.
So it is opening and closing scenes, it is providing prompts for, like, you know, there are mechanisms around its narrative.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah, it's super cool. It was very fun. It means that the game plays pretty quickly because it's not a super long album. It's 8 songs.
Sure.
So the game plays for the length of the album. And then you're done.
As opposed to like Metallica's and Justice for All, where like the average song is like 11 minutes on the album.
Good heavens. Well, I could write a novel apparently to that one if I could think of enough ideas. Yeesh.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I've fallen off my podcast train a little bit because I've been very into music right now in the pandemic land. It's just doing my brain better, happy things, even though there are podcasts I'm sad I'm not caught up on anymore. But, you know, so this game, I didn't even know when we downloaded it that that's how it worked, but it like totally tickled all of the sweet spots in that. And I was like, oh, this is super cool.
Nice.
Damn it, it's super cool.
That's awesome.
It was good. Anyway, what's giving you life in gaming?
So I was playing Sneezak's Call of Cthulhu Wild West game.
Yeah.
And we were in the middle of a zombie attack. I shouldn't say in the middle. That's the focus of the session that night was like all of a sudden these zombies started coming after us and everyone in the town, and so there was just the bulk of the online session, because we were playing for like about 2 hours, was a rolling gunfight. One, I was like up on the mesa, so I had to like get back to town. And then when I got to town, like Jerry was in the sheriff's office that was like being attacked by zombies, so like I had to like help shoot those, you know, out of the way or whatever. So the thing about it was like it was fine. We had the combat, you know, killed a lot of zombies, things died down.
Yeah, zombies all around me, I'll be hacking them all up. Hacking them all up. When there's zombies all around me, I'll be hacking them all up. Okay.
You got the wrong tone, right words, wrong melody.
No, it's right. That's what they sing. In the basement rolling dice. I'm a wizard.
Yes. There you go. This is not getting good. All right.
We put the outtakes in the show for these shows.
We fold them in gently.
Just fold them in gently, like waffles. We'll get to the waffles.
You don't want to over mix it, but you do want to fold them in gently.
Fold them in gently so that they're incorporated in the batter.
All right, I'm gonna keep talking now.
All right, you keep going.
So after the zombie attack, the whole purpose we were there was to capture this guy and bring him in for a bounty, and we had him, right? He was in the jail. So we did all that, and we're like, cool, we should just get out of here. Like,
yeah, the
dead are walking through the streets. I don't see...
Run.
Right, I don't see a good reason for us to stay. You know, we start doing stuff and planning stuff to just bug out of town, and you know, Chris is doing his part as the GM, like throwing some complications in the way of this, and it becomes clear at a meta level, like we're not supposed to leave. Like the adventure needs you to stay,
but they didn't give you a reason to stay.
But they don't really make it very compelling for why you should, right? And this is the piece I want to talk about, which is when we play role-playing games, it is not and I'm going to just do this off the top of my head. When you are a player in a role-playing game, You are not there to sit passively and be fed, by the mama bird GM who's going to, put food in your mouth in terms of story and plot, right? It is more like a ballroom dance where both partners are like pushing and pulling on each other and kind of guiding each other across the floor.
I feel like I wrote a Gnome Stew article about this.
By the way, I have a C in ballroom dancing at the university level, at the actual 200 dance class level.
I'm impressed. I got an A, but I remember none of it.
Right. I was also a giant science nerd, which is not, which you should not have to take performance art, but I did.
Well, you have to take some sort of PE, so I took ballroom dancing.
So yours was a PE thing. Mine was a performance art and was taken through the dance department.
Oh, yours might have been like true real then, because I took plenty of performance. Like, I had to take all the I had to take all the intro acting stuff, and I didn't want to.
Half of my class were actual dance majors.
Oh, boy.
Half of the class was not.
Oh, and then you're like, wow, this is intimidating.
Yeah, this is some hard shit. Anyway, point is, when we are playing a role-playing game, it is more like a ballroom dance where we are pushing and pulling against one another and following leads, right? So in many cases, we are not the lead, right? The GM is the lead who is guiding us. And I'm male. I wound up leading a lot. That was not a requirement in my ballroom dance class, but I did actually wind up leading a lot. So it is like the hand on the back that gently pulls you closer or, moves you in the direction you need to go. It occurs to me as we're playing the game, as I'm watching Sneezak working, that I'm like, okay, we need to stay here.
So just,
right.
Can I interject one thing? Because this is
Sure.
my understanding. This is a pre-written adventure.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So this is a pre-written adventure.
This is like, he didn't sit down and like write hooks to keep you in town, which is the kind of stuff that we would usually start talking about to resolve this sort of thing.
Yeah, no. This was a pre-written adventure, and you need to go to certain places before the end of the adventure, kind of thing. But we had like met met the objective to get us there.
Yeah,
and it was like, I guess maybe on one level that like, on one level in a Call of Cthulhu game, it might be like something weird's going on. We should investigate.
Right, but it's also like something weird's going on. Run away!
Yeah, like something weird's going on. Let's get the F out of here. Yes. So, sensing that Sneezak needed us to stay, rather than put him through the ringer.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I did my part as a player to be like, okay, like, we need to stay here. Let's work that back into the story. So, in this case, the guy we had captured after the zombie attack was like, look, my family up on the mesa, like, I'm worried about them. And we had encountered them previously, and they were very nice, and this guy surrendered without a fight kind of thing. So I was like, all right, look, before we bug out of town, we'll go check on your kin. Right? Like, we'll just go up there. Which was exactly what Sneezak needed, because that when we got to that scene,
right,
it sets up the conclusion of where, what we're going to play in the next.
Right. So now you're not leaving town.
Right.
So, like, bye.
So the point is that as a good player, right, you need to be working with your GM, whether it is just having a talk at the meta level or whether it's successfully reading your GM. Now, in the case of Chris, I have gamed with him for many, many years, so I kind of like, I can read him and I can read what's happening in the situation, right? Because as we're starting to come up with ideas, we're running into roadblocks. Like, we're like, oh, we should go get the stagecoach, and it's tipped over on its side, right? And the axle's broken, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, okay, this is, you're finding the walls of the box canyon is what's happening.
Yeah, like, you're finding, like, so rather than fight that.
Yeah.
Right?
Just follow.
Yeah, well, rather than fight that, your job as a player is to play through the story. And look, if the story's on rails and you signed up for it, ride the rails. And if it's whatever else, like, engage in the dance, right? Don't try to also lead.
Yeah.
Right? The plot is going in a place, especially when it's a published adventure. The GM is basically steering it as best as they can.
Yep.
But learn to read the story, learn to read the game master, and like do the game master a favor. Like, lean into it.
Yeah, make their lives easier. We appreciate it a lot when you do that kind of thing.
Yeah, and don't do it, out of like
pity.
like you gave up. Yeah. Like, I came up with a reason, right? So when he was like, what about, my brother and his wife? And I was like, you know what? They were very decent folk. Like, they were decent to us, and whatever. We'll go check on them before we leave town. Like, I was still like, okay, we're still quote leaving town.
Yeah,
but
you're gonna go invest yourself in a scene that will give everybody the opportunity to get pulled back in before you leave. Unquote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that and it wasn't hard to recognize, and I remember from the 80s being a jerk and like the GM being like, okay, well, we're going to, you're going to the dungeon outside of town. Well, we don't want to go out of town. We're just going to stay in town and like, be assholes or whatever. Right. And like,
they're like, why are you playing this game?
Right. So, this game's a horror game, right? It's a horror mystery game. Which also means that you don't always make the best decisions, right? Like, should the players have just left town?
Yes. Yes, they absolutely should have.
Should have just fixed the stagecoach, gotten in and been like, 2 middle fingers, roll out of this town. See you later, Zombieville, right? Never to speak of it again.
Yep.
But no, like,
you stayed.
No, like, take the hook, right? Like,
we've talked about this before.
Right. Feel where the story needs to go and paddle with the current.
Yeah.
I think is maybe, as I made like 100 analogies in this discussion, right? Maybe the last part of it is like, just paddle with the current.
Yeah, don't fight
the story's got a place to go. Your job is to go with it and make the trip interesting.
Yeah.
So that's what gave that was what was giving me life. Like, it was just a little moment where I think Chris was worried about like how are we getting to the final scene of this?
How do I keep them in town to get to the final scene of this?
Right. And and the other thing that was, I think, an uphill challenge was like, when we made our characters, none of them had any real experience with the supernatural. So it's not like, oh, there were zombies, we should probably investigate this, right? It was more like, the dead are walking in this town. This town is damned.
Out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this town is damned by God. We need to leave, right?
Yeah.
Which, is also its own challenge, right? Because all I did was I made this like ex-Civil War soldier who realized that he couldn't fit into society anymore. So he just became a mountain man, and he moved to Colorado, and he lived on Castle Mountain. Right. And then he had a friend that like he visited, right? Like who got married and everything else. So like, when the dead start walking, like
you're going back up to the mountains. They're like, bye. Right. I don't need any of you. I'll be fine. I know how to feed myself.
Right. This guy's like, all right, we got to just get out of here, right? Like, I got a gun, and I killed a couple of them. I think I could kill a couple more, but we got to go.
Yeah, like, I got a cabin.
Yeah, I got a cabin. I got a mountain. Like, I don't have to see anyone. Like,
ever again.
I'm not going to be okay for a while, right?
Yeah.
Like, I suffered a lot of sanity loss. Like, yeah. So the again, paddle with the current.
Yeah.
You're playing with the GM, not against the GM.
Yeah. If I remember, I'll even put the link to that Gnome Stew article in the show notes, but I'll probably forget because I just realized there was probably stuff I should have put in last week's show notes that I did not.
It's fair. You know what? You can go to Gnome Stew and just Google it.
It's true. You look up proactive versus reactive gaming is the article.
There it is.
And it's got dancers as the big picture on the front.
There you go.
That the gesture that no one could see except for Phil is definitely not what the dancers are doing.
I have a C in ballroom dancing, and that is definitely not.
Walk like an Egyptian.
I'm amazed you even know that. Did you guys do that in like preschool or something? What?
No, I know it from Sesame Street.
Oh my God. I'm just going to lay down now.
There was a Sesame Street.
I'm gonna lay down.
There was a Sesame Street where they did a dancer. Or was it Muppets? I'm pretty sure it was Sesame Street.
Oh my goodness. Like, that was an actual song and a thing in the 80s, right?
Yes,
like,
I know that now.
Wait. You know that now, or you knew that like a few minutes ago?
No, I knew it before you said it to me.
Okay. I saw it on Sesame Street. Oh my God. I saw it on MTV when they played videos. When it was music television.
If we were editing, I would stop us and I would go find the Sesame Street one because it was great. But I ended up doing that in front of for a year. All the pictures that my parents have of me are like ducks. Anyway.
Okay. Well, now that we've reaffirmed just how old I am.
Oh, boy.
What's giving you life in the kitchen?
Well, let's see. So I'll say two things. Because part of what we end up talking about when we do what's giving you life in the kitchen is what new recipe did you try this week? And the new recipe that I tried this week was waffles, which is not that I haven't made waffles before. I have a family waffle recipe.
And not that you haven't waffled many other things.
Indeed, waffled many other things.
The falafel waffle.
Waffles.
Yeah.
Falafel waffles. They're great. And also tater tots and also rice and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, yes. But so I have a family waffle recipe, which I like, and it's very tasty. But I don't make it very often because you do have to beat the egg whites, right? And then you have to fold them in just like the outtakes are folded into this show. So you're bringing it back around now.
I did that on purpose.
I know, of course you did. Smart man. Anyway, so you had to fold the egg whites in to make it all battery, fluffy, etc., etc., etc. But so it's like a multi-bowl long process where either I have to pull out the giant stand mixer because that's the only mixer I have right now, or what I usually do is stand there and beat the egg whites by hand for 10 minutes, and then woof, that was my arm workout for the day. So I don't make waffles super often because it's a process, right?
Sure.
So I'm reading through Bon Appetit because that is apparently where I'm getting all of my new recipes right now. And I'm just going to say they're killing it because it's all stuff that I just have in my cabinet. And when we talk about new recipes and stay-at-home cooking when you're trying not to go out more than necessary during stay-at-home orders, although we're not officially under stay-at-home orders anymore, we're under, quote, safer at home. But, like that. It's just, anyway, they're doing a great job, and I'm super excited that I keep trying things from there. But anyway, so there was this waffle recipe in the May issue of Bon Appetit, and it doesn't have you separate the egg. And I was like, quoi? I am not from your country. And then I was like, but it's Bon Appetit. And they have not steered me wrong yet. Mm-hmm. Everything that I have done has been very successful. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try this waffle recipe. So I tried it. So it's a whole bunch of things that should not generate a fluffy waffle when you just look at it on paper. It's whole wheat flour, instant oats, yogurt, an egg, and I tossed in a tablespoon of sugar and some vanilla because they leave it so that you can go either way with it as a clean palate if you want to go savory or sweet. Since I knew I was going sweet,
sure.
I went traditional waffle, added sugar and vanilla, right?
Yeah.
So I mix it all together and it turns into this fluffy, it's not even batter. It doesn't pour. It's just floof. And I was like, okay, I don't know what to do with this. It's like half yogurt. And so I like spread it around on my waffle iron and I closed it up and I cooked it and then I pulled it out and then I ate it and I was like, oh my God, it's so fluffy. So
It's awesome.
it's amazing. And so apparently it's this fantastic waffle recipe where you don't have to beat the egg white and it's made out of all sorts of things that kind of make you be able to pretend that it's sort of healthy because it's whole wheat flour. There's no white flour in it and like oats and stuff. And you're like, look, it's so much healthier. But I mean, it'll stick in your stomach a bit longer, which is nice. But it makes making waffles as easy as making pancakes.
Yeah, you're going to get mad at me because I often just take Bisquick and make waffles from
No,
it.
but that's not a waffle.
Well, they alter the recipe. Just put like a little more oil in it or something. Just make waffles.
That's a pancake that you put in a waffle iron.
Yeah. Totally did that. Totally works. Anyway, but I like that. I mean, this sounds interesting, right? Like it's. I will have to try. Like I will
I'm judging your waffles right now. I'm judging them.
You should because I just now I will say that I also have waffle mix. I forget the name of the brand, but I have like specific waffle mix in my pantry that I picked up at like during the first week of quarantine, just in case I needed to make some waffles or something.
Waffle mix.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's a mix.
Stop. Don't. Just don't. It's fine. It's a waffle mix. You're a snob. It's all right.
You still have to separate the eggs. That's all.
I'm pretty sure you don't. Pretty sure you just crack some eggs in there.
I don't understand what's going on. Anyway. So yeah, this waffle recipe is great. I had another one for breakfast this morning because it made 4.
Nice.
And it was great. And they do stick with you longer. Like my family traditional waffles are very light and airy. And if I really wanted to make a meal out of just waffles, I could probably eat like 3 of them, right? Like raw.
Right.
And then still be hungry an hour later. These
Sounds
ones
delicious.
These ones are they're still fluffy, but like especially with a little bit of protein on the side, like they lasted me fine through the day as brunch. I was not a problem. So I was like, that's cool. I'm a fan. So, I have another one. But do you want to talk first and I'll talk about it after? Or do you want me to talk about it now and then you can talk about yours?
No, you should save it. Don't talk about 2 of them.
But then it won't be this week anymore.
Whatever. It'll still have given you life.
Okay.
What if you don't have anything next week?
You think I'm not making things between this week and next week?
I'm just saying.
Oh.
Anyway.
Oh, yeah. The other thing that I made that was a new recipe this last week is the thing you're going to talk about.
Yes. So there.
I also made that.
Yes. You also made it, and then I made it after you, which is what I'm going to talk about.
Talk about it now.
I also used a Bon Appetit recipe and made scallion pancakes.
Yeah, I think that was the April issue.
Yeah. I've been very into, during this pandemic, doing a lot of Asian-themed recipes. And I love scallion pancakes, like for takeout, but not every place does them. So when you popped up a recipe for it, like I read through the recipe and I was like, this is very doable,
right?
Like this recipe is very straightforward, very doable. But I was like,
they're killing it. They're killing it.
Yes. And I was like, but this won't be enough. No. I'm going to need pot stickers.
Yes.
Right. Like, but I wasn't going to make pot stickers because I was like, I'm going to make the pancakes. I don't have enough time to make pot stickers,
yeah.
Which sounds really interesting, but I'm not doing that. So I'll just get frozen ones. Wegmans makes them. So I was like, I went through the recipe, and I decided I was like, I'm going to make this for Sunday brunch. I'm going to make myself scallion pancakes. I'm going to make myself pot stickers. This is going to be like my main meal for the day, and then I'll eat some dinner.
Yeah.
So I take a look at the instructions for heating up the pot stickers, and I'm kind of like laying out in my head like how I want to, like I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the pancakes first, then I'll do the pot stickers, whatever. So I was like, I kind of like look at the way they want to cook them, and I'm like, yeah, it looks all right. I'm like, I don't know. Let me just go check on the internet. I'm like,
yes.
Best way to cook frozen pot stickers.
Yes.
Of course, right? I Google it and immediately find like 2 blog pages that have slightly different way to make them, which is actually the way you make them.
Yeah.
So anyway, So I whip up the pancakes, which was great because I like pour the first pancake and then take it off the pan, and I put the other two on, and I'm like, cool, I'm just gonna taste one of these right now.
They're so good, right?
Yeah, and the chili sauce was good. I think I was a little heavy on the chili oil.
Yeah.
So when I first mixed it, I didn't mix it nearly enough because it wasn't emulsified. So like it was like chili oil and
you were
then
like,
the soy.
Chili oil.
So I just took that and dumped it in a Tupperware container and then shook the shit out of it like a salad dressing.
Yeah.
That helped immensely. So anyway, I'm eating my one scallion pancake while cooking the other ones, and I'm like, "Oh, these are good. Like these are
good.
These are really good. They're chewy. I had cut up the correct amount of scallions, so like they were all very oniony.
Did you get them crispy? Because I didn't.
Oh yeah. No,
I got some of mine were slightly floppy, and some of mine were crispy, and the crispy ones were like killer.
Oh no, I was using a sufficient high heat, and then I was putting them on, waiting till they kind of released from the pan, flipped them, pressed down because that's what they said.
Press down,
like, press down.
Yep.
And then I like kept flipping them and flipping them and flipping them and just keeping them going until I liked the color on them.
Yeah.
And then took them off. So then I did the pot stickers, which is that you fry them first, frozen, right from the bag, frozen onto
brown them up,
pour a little water in, cover it, and steamed them through. I sat down, had my sauce.
Yep.
I put the pot stickers in the middle. Yes. I put my scallion pancakes around.
Yes. Delicious.
Glass of water.
Delicious.
It was good. I'm going to tell you, no shame here. I ate everything.
That's fine.
That recipe didn't make a ton.
It doesn't make an exceedingly large amount. No.
I looked at it and I was like, there are going to be no survivors today. Like, and the Wegmans pot stickers come in a small box. So it's not like a big bag or anything. It's like a small little box.
Oh, I was going to say, was the amount on your plate like the total sum of how many pot stickers they gave you?
From the picture you saw?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay.
There was another. Okay. There was more in the kitchen.
I was like, what?
No. I plated it for effect, right? So the picture, if you see it on Twitter, is plated for effect. That's not even all the scallion pancake, right? I plated it, and then I had another.
That looked like a very reasonable quantity.
Yes. What you miss is there was another plate in the kitchen with the remainder of the pot stickers and the pancakes that I just brought into the kitchen or out of the kitchen and ate those too. Yeah.
Oh boy. Anyway, yeah, I made those also.
Yeah, they were great, right?
Yeah, no, they were delicious.
The only weird thing you need for the scallion pancakes is chilled club soda.
Oh yeah.
Everything else I had. Everything else I had.
I actually just did not have chili oil. So I think the reason that my sauce was different is because I was like, I don't have chili oil. And also there are people in my house who will not eat anything with any level of spice, right? So I separated out all the dip for everybody. And then I put I can't remember the name of the actual sauce. Now it's just cock sauce in my head, which is not what I should call it right now, but I'm not editing this show.
Sriracha.
Thank you. Sriracha is oh, fuck. Anyway.
Folks, you see why sometimes we do edit the show? It's these moments. Sriracha.
So I just put some sriracha in that sauce and then I stirred it around. But because it was sriracha and not oil, it just blended in nicely and gave it a little kick.
I actually probably will do sriracha next time instead of just because it's easier.
It was
like
super
the oil
easy.
was actually a little work to get it emulsified.
Yeah, the sriracha was super duper easy peasy.
I am making another Bon Appetit recipe next week.
Oh, what are you making next week?
I found these slow cooked in the oven. I don't want to say slow cooked. They are chicken wings, turmeric and pepper.
Ooh.
Chicken wings.
Me and turmeric have a sordid history where I'm always a little bit leery of it as a primary flavor.
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to test drive it with the recipe that Bon Appetit has because I'm trusting them in all things right
I
now.
know, they're very good at it.
But really what I'm interested in is the technique is for cooking these wings to make them crispy is that you start them in a cold oven.
Interesting.
You let the temperature go up and it rends the fat slowly instead of like blasting it like into a hot oven. So I want to see if I can make these wings crispy following their recipe, because if that's the case,
You can put anything on
then what I'm going to do is I'll just put whatever rub I want.
Yes.
On the next batch, right? So whether I want to do some sort of barbecue dry rub or some sort of 5-spice Asian inspired rub, which is probably what I would want to do. Then I'll try those. But I'm going to try it right off the page and see how it goes.
So I made the triple threat onion galette again. Also, which I've already talked about. That thing is so good. But I was thinking as I ate it last night that like we're enough into spring now that we're starting to get a lot of really nice fresh fruits, and that I may make an actual dessert galette, like a more traditional galette. If there's peaches, that would be so good. But so I might just make that crust and then fill it up with berries and stuff, because it's so tender, it's so flaky, it's so amazing, and it's good.
I got one word to take that onion galette from amazing to epic.
I think I know what you're going to say. Disagree, though. Disagree.
Bacon.
Disagree.
Just cook up some bacon.
No.
Chop it up. Put it in with the onions.
So,
Actually,
I don't know.
all right,
No.
Wait, I'm
So,
backing up.
yeah.
Hang on.
No, but it's
just
such an
listen.
interesting umami flavor.
Okay, but listen to me.
It's got
Just
mustard
listen.
on it.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Bacon works with everything. But listen, here's where we go. I cook the bacon in a pan, which I don't normally do.
Sure.
But I'll cook bacon in the pan.
Okay.
Then caramelize the onions right in the bacon fat.
Sure.
Right? And then crumble up the bacon, put in the caramelized bacon onions, crumbled bacon, put that on top, put the scallions on top, bake that bad boy up. You have landed.
No, I don't.
Bring your passport, because you are landing in flavor country and will need to go to customs.
Yeah, you know that I'm not going to make it like that because I won't eat it like that, right?
I know you won't.
You can. Man,
But now
My
I'm thinking about it.
my shoulder is peeling. I will say, so the thing about the galette, and this is true about galettes in general, and this is the thing that I have learned from making this galette. I had heard it before, but now I know it firsthand. And that is, you cannot use a pre-purchased pie crust and then try to make a galette out of it. It depends in all ways on the amazing perfection of the crust, because so much of the dish is the crust. So you have to make the crust. You just gotta. Anyway, we should wrap up the show.
We should indeed. So, normally in order to do that, you tell us about another show
I
on the
can make one
Misdirected
up.
Mark Network. Go
I
ahead,
can always
up.
make one
I
up.
dare you. I dare you.
Yeah, I don't remember what I did last time because I didn't listen to the show again last time.
Whatever.
So I'm going to tell you that on Zhanghu Hustle, you could have been sharing in their epic watch party of Kung Fu Panda this very night. And that would obviously be the best Kung Fu Panda watch party, or the best Zhanghu Hustle watch party. Pretty fantastic.
Until they do Jim Cotta.
Well, so they're doing a bunch of watch parties right now because they are also in sort of a holding pattern spoon-wise, but their watch parties are super cool on Twitter, and you should check them out.
Yes.
That's what I'll say
That sounds
about that.
good. Say, Senda, where can people reach us on the internet?
Well, you can find us on Twitter at Pandas Talk Games. You can find us in the Misdirected Mark forums, or you can drop us an email, panda@misdirectedmark.com. And Phil, once they find us in one of those places, what can they do with that information for when we're doing real shows again?
Yeah, you know what? We normally, when we're not chit-chatting with each other, we normally source our show from topics that you want to hear about. So we still need those. Much like my pantry, we are stockpiling things right now. So feel free to send us topics, questions, things you want to hear us talk about, etc. I will eventually much like most of my cooking, whip it up into something delicious.
Or fold it in.
Yeah. So do that. Send us your topics. We'd love to, when we get back into the full swing of things, we'd love to just keep doing what we do best, which is talking about the things that you love. And talking about things that you love, if you love what we do here on the Misdirected, here or elsewhere on the Misdirected Mark Network, please consider supporting our Patreon campaign. Go to patreon.com/MMP. Patrons get the outtakes from this show, the bonus outtakes from the show, the after show from Misdirected Mark. You get access to our incredible community on Slack, our Slack room for life, as we like to call it. They are just wonderful humans, and they are pretty much how I'm getting through this pandemic, is just staying in contact with all of them. That includes our Friday Zoom luncheons, which you could take part in. It includes hanging out on the Minecraft server with all of them, and just kind of chatting and sharing life stories and everything right in the chat room for life. So big hearts to all of them. Come join us if you are able to support the campaign. We would love to have you.
Can I slip in a thing really quickly? So this is just a note, because I know that it's been a little bit confusing. There are bonus outtakes from all of these Chit Chat shows. We didn't put the actual outtakes at the end because I didn't edit the show. But we are, in fact, recording more random stuff that is still bonus content that is dropping in the Patreon feed. So if you were wondering about that, or if you've been missing them, there's more. Have fun.
Yeah. Indeed. Hey, we are still continuing with our If You Listen to Us, You Will Love Us campaign. And normally I'm just unabashed about this, but I still remain staunch in my belief that if you listen to us, you will love us. And there is a way you can help other people find us so that they too can listen to us and then love us. And that involves a little thing called Apple Podcasts.
Right. You can leave us a 5-star rating or review on Apple Podcasts or the podcatcher of your choice. Every new review we get really does actually help new people find the show, which is fantastic. And sometimes people do cool things like, talk about us on Twitter. That's pretty awesome too. All of these things make me feel really good. Suddenly people have been talking about us on Twitter, and it has made my heart be warm and fuzzy on the inside and reminded me that there's a reason that we keep doing this. Thank you.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, thank you so much to everybody who's already left a review. Why is that word hard to say tonight? We really, really do actually appreciate them a ton, and they do help so much. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. You can leave a review for the show, or you can leave a review for episodes.
I know that's
You don't need to review every episode, but if you just like a particular episode and want to drop
really
a little
good,
love,
you could totally do that. Yeah, you could do that.
You can totally do that.
Yeah.
All right. Say, Senda, you have game week this week. What are you guys playing? This show is a joint production of She's a Super Geek and Misdirected Mark Productions, the media arm of Encoded Designs. Show me what you got, show me what you got. Show me what you got, show me what you got. Show me what you got, show me what you got. Show me what you got.